Does this look familiar? To most people, probably. This type of email has become so common, it's almost like a funny inside joke. An email from a prince in Nigeria promising you money, even though Nigeria doesn't have a monarchy and therefore impossible to have a prince. This type of email is a scam called a phishing scam. Now, there's lots of types of phishing scams, and in fact, phishing falls under the umbrella term of a cybersecurity issue called social engineering. Now, what is social engineering? As I've been researching, I find that the best definition is some sort of hacking without too much code that mostly relies on the social interactions of people, hence social engineering. You're trying to engineer or figure out a way for someone to tell you some privileged or private information. I think it's maybe just a fancier way of being really good at lying. Like, it feels just kind of like lying. But there is something to be said here about the art of lying, right? People are bad liars. I'm a bad liar. And then there are people who are good liars. So trying to figure out what makes an effective lie, what different things you can do to make someone believe you and give you that information, that is really what is key in social engineering. Social engineering is different than other cybersecurity issues because it doesn't require a ton of computing expertise. You're not making a botnet, you're not making a self-replicating virus, you are maybe making an email that looks good enough to pass off as an institutional email to get someone's information. In that way, social engineering can be a lot more accessible to a lot more attackers who lack all the fine computing details that you would need for something more technologically advanced. So let's just go through kind of a bullet point list of social engineering attacks. So obviously there's phishing, right? As talked about before, the classic email phishing. Sometimes the attacker there will just want you to send that information that they're asking for, maybe a password or an account number, back over email. But sometimes they'll send you to a fake landing page, which requires a little bit more technical knowledge. They'll get you to go to a page that looks like a login page that you're used to, but it's not real. It's not a real login page. And instead of logging you into that service, it just gives them your username and password, which is not great. There are other types of phishing as well. So there's vishing, which is voice phishing, which happens over the phone. If you've ever gotten a call about your car's extended warranty expiring, you are familiar with phishing. That's the most common one that I hear for myself. And I know a lot of people in my area hear that one. So I don't know if it's a nationwide thing, but it's local to me. I just wanted to take a brief aside to actually look into if this is a nationwide problem. So if I type in your cars, is you type in your car, it appears in Google. Yeah, it looks like there are fun videos about it. I think it's so widespread that it is a meme. You can get a tank top with trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. So I'm pretty safe to say that this is a widespread thing. Yeah. Apparently it tops FCC complaints. So, pretty big deal, this vishing scam. With vishing or voice phishing on your phone, another powerful tool that they use is call spoofing. So they can spoof the number so it looks like the call is coming from somewhere else using VoIP, VoIP. VoIP allows anyone to place phone calls over the internet rather than through a phone line, and you can spoof the call so it looks like it's coming from a phone line. So the area code might match your area code, so you might be more likely to pick up because you're given that context of, hey, this is someone from my local area. So maybe it's a business, maybe it's a local school or something. Maybe I should pick up and answer and give them information. And then also SMS phishing, so via text message. In fact, I just got one of these an hour and a half ago from Chase Bank, even though I don't bank at Chase. But I don't know what this website's going to take me to. It's an Amazon AWS, Amazon web server site, but I'm not going to click it, obviously. Of course, with a fun name like phishing, we made up some more names that are related to like the hobby phishing to describe the cyber attack phishing. So angler phishing is when you are faking customer service accounts on social media. And spear phishing is when you are targeting an individual rather than a wide swath. So, for example, if this was a spear phishing attack, this only got sent out to me rather than a whole bunch of people. It would be a pretty bad spear phishing attack because I don't have Chase Bank, so I won't click on this. There are a couple other types of social engineering that rely on like the physical world. So one of those is called tailgating, not like at a fun football game, but that's where you actually follow people into places where you're not supposed to be. I kind of think of it like as a spy movie, like following you into an office, like, oh, I held the door open and now I can get in. That's tailgating. Baiting is when people just leave like physical media lying around, so like a USB, or if we're going old school, like a CD, for someone to put into their device. It's a little bit more technologically advanced because you have to know what to do with that USB to get the information that you want, but the fact that you are leaving it somewhere and knowing, hey, people are curious, someone will pick this up and plug this in, that's the social engineering part of it. And that is one pretty effective. In a study done in 2016, about 300 USBs were dropped on a college campus, and 45 of them got plugged into computers. I meant to say 45% of them, which is worse. 45%! That's almost half of them! In addition to it being effective, it can have really long-lasting and impactful results. In 2008, a USB drop was the cause of a major cyber attack that took over a year to eradicate. So, something as simple as putting a USB down in a parking lot can cause people to pick it up and some disastrous results. Another type of social engineering is pretexting. So that's impersonating authority to get other people to comply. This is also common with law enforcement. People will impersonate law enforcement or the IRS to get people to comply. Another type of social engineering is quid pro quo, which is a term that is also used not in cybersecurity. It's Latin for something for something. The example that I like to think of is going to be like, oh, I can fix that for you. I just need your password so I can get into your account, so I can fix that thing for you. I'm going to do something for you, but I need that information so I can do it. So that's just a big list of different social engineering attacks. Maybe you're familiar with a couple of them. Maybe you've experienced them yourself. Maybe now you know how to look out for some of them. But let's talk a little bit about how social engineering got started. So I like to think way back to the myth of the Trojan horse. So if you don't know what the Trojan horse is, right? It was back in ancient Greece. The Greeks made a big wooden horse, went to Troy, knock, knock, knock. Here's a horse. It's an offering for Athena. So good. Here's a cool horse. And people were like, maybe we shouldn't let this horse into our town from our enemy. And then people were like, but it's a cool horse. I love this horse. And they let him in, and oops, it's full of people who are going to kill you now. So you can view that as a piece of social engineering. They knew, hey, if we frame this as an offering to the goddess of war, they will accept it. Even if they might have doubts about us, hey, this is a nice thing that we're doing to them. And then we can steal not their passwords, but like their lives. Bit brutal. So I like to think of that as the original social engineering attack. Now, social engineering was a term that was used before in the political sphere and didn't really gain traction in the computer science realm until later. And one of the most famous social engineering attacks was made by Kevin Mitnick, who is now in charge of his own security firm. Basically, what he did was he called Motorola, the phone company. He was trying to get source code for a phone because he was on the run, and he thought this would make having the source code would make it harder for people to find him. And he calls, and he's pretending to be part of the company and trying to get to the source code. And he just calls his way up. He gets transferred. He gets transferred to another person, and he gets like all the way to the project manager's assistant, and the project manager isn't there. And he's like, man, I need the source code because I'm making changes to it. I'm part of Motorola. And she's like, oh, well, I can't send that to you in the form that it is, but let me get the security manager. And the security manager doesn't bat an eye, even though they were the security manager, and gives the assistant their username and password, who then gives it to Kevin Mitnick, who uses that to get the source code, and then also has the security manager's login and password, which is insane. And these were just people who were trusting other people to be not lying. And unfortunately for them, Kevin was lying. So that's a really good example of how far this can go. There are a couple more current social engineering attacks that you might have heard of recently. There was a 2020 attack on Twitter where a bunch, like 130 high-profile Twitter accounts, including Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, former President Obama, Joe Biden, Mike Bloomberg, and also companies, Uber and Apple, for example, they all were promoting this Bitcoin scam where it was, you send me 1,000 in Bitcoin and I'll send you $2,000 back in Bitcoin. Which you obviously, that seems suspicious, right? I shouldn't have to send you money for you to send me money back. These hacks happened because of social engineering at Twitter behind the scenes. So the attacker got information on the back end to get into all of these accounts and then was able to push out their Bitcoin scam via Twitter. I wanted to go over a few details of the 2020 Twitter Bitcoin scam hack, just because in my experience in the cybersecurity class that I'm taking, when a company has shared, hey, we've been hacked, usually they don't come forward with a lot of details about how that hack happened for security reasons. But for this case, we do have a report from the Department of Financial Services from New York State that kind of goes into some cool details about it. So they state that it happened in 3 stages: the social engineering attack, which is obviously what I would be most focused on, taking over the accounts, and then directing them to the Bitcoin scam. So how did the social engineering happen? Apparently, the hackers called Twitter employees claiming to be from the help desk for Twitter's IT department. And while some of these calls were caught and reported to IT, it only took one employee to hand over the credentialed information in order for the hackers to succeed in step 2. What the hackers did was something that I've stated before as an example, where they sent them to a fake landing page that looked like a legitimate Twitter VPN website, but was hosted by the hackers so they could have all that information. I think that it's interesting that we can see in this report that the hackers did use personal information about the employees. They did a really good job of scoping out their employees and figuring out information to build a relationship of trust with that employee before sending them to this fake website. I also find it interesting that a lot of the employees forwarded on this fake website to their actual IT department. And still, with that reporting done,
the hackers were still able to gain access to the network.
Another attack that you might be familiar with was the 2016 Democratic Party email leak. Lots of people were involved in that. Some say it had major outcomes on the 2016 election in the United States. And what happened was the Democratic Party got hacked and a bunch of emails got leaked, and then people had to spend time going over them, and there was media coverage about it. But what you might not know is that one of the principal tools in this hack was phishing. People on the Clinton campaign team got emails that looked like they were from someone else on the team, and there was a link that sent them to a fake login page, and basically a dummy website that they entered in their information, and then a Russian intelligence organization had that information and could log in as them and then could leak all of those emails. So social engineering is really lying, right? That's what it is. But, there are good liars and there are bad liars. So how are these people such convincing liars? Well, they might rely on fixed action patterns. Something that makes someone much more successful at lying and getting what they want is if they can trick the target into liking them. So using nonverbals or compliments, smiling, making eye contact, those are all human behaviors that we use when we want to make a connection with someone, when we want them to like us, when we want to show, hey, I like you. So if you can get someone to like you, they will be more willing to do things for you, including maybe give up some private and personal information. Another trick that people use is the idea of reciprocation. So that goes back to quid pro quo, as discussed earlier. I'll do something for you if you do something for me. I can fix this problem for you if you give me your logon. Oh, I can clear that account if you give me your number. So an exchange of information can be really, really crucial here. And then another fixed action pattern that we fall into is authority. If someone looks like they are in a position of authority, we are way more likely to listen to them. This really goes back to the social engineering example of pretexting, right? Pretending that you are an authority to get people to give you information. This can come from a couple different places, either a respect of authority, which is very prevalent, or a fear of authority. If I don't do this, I will get in trouble. Now, a lot of these social engineering attacks are different, but they do see interplay with each other. And with all of these, there are kind of a cycle of actions that occur. And this cycle has 4 steps: research, hook, play, and out. So the research stage. This is when you're researching, who are your targets, or who is your target in the case of a more direct, focused attack. Best targets are going to be people who are gullible or untrained or don't have time to be careful. There are lots of phishing attacks aimed at the elderly who are not as tech savvy, who are untrained in technology. I know that my parents, who I wouldn't call elderly, but definitely aren't, they didn't grow up with technology. They get a lot of phishing emails, more than I do. In the research phase, the attacker is also going to make a decision of, are they trying to get a wide swath of people, or are they going to try to target an individual or perhaps a couple individuals? Maybe they're going for everyone on a email list that they already have. Maybe they're going to target a business. Maybe they're just going to find some information and go with that and just, I have a list of phone numbers that I bought off the internet, I'm going to try them out. The second step of the cycle is the hook. So this is where the attacker is trying to get the user to trust them in order to get that information. When the attacker is trying to hook the user, they're thinking about, what information do I need to get the user to trust me? So having credentials. If you're going to use pretexting and fake being an authority, maybe you need someone's name, maybe you need a certain email sign off. If you are going to send them to a fake landing site, what does that landing site look like? Maybe you need to make a stressful situation in order for the person to feel pressure to give the information. Maybe you need the sound of a baby crying in the background. Maybe you need an urgent deadline, that this needs to happen. You need to tell me your information so I can fix this problem right away. The hook might also play in the research stage, especially if the attacker is targeting an individual. The attacker might have gathered other information or credentials I don't know the password, but I do know the account number. If I tell you that, will you tell me the password? Oh, this person is my husband and I need this information. I know he has HBO, but we're trying to add something onto it. So any type of credentials, any details that the attacker can add to the hook can make them seem more credible and therefore can get the user to tell them more information. Step 3 is when things are actually happening. That's the play. That's getting the information from the user, using the information and trust gained in the previous phases. The play is where I personally would be really bad at because I am a bad liar. So while trying to get someone to tell me information, I don't think I would be very convincing at all because I might like giggle or do something stupid that would get someone to be like, hey, this isn't real. So social engineer hackers have to be very confident in what they're doing. They know that they might get caught, and that pressure they have to deal with. The last stage is the out. Ideally, in a hacker's world, the person will not even know that they've been hacked. So if you're not attacking the target directly, let's say you've gone to a customer service of a company that you know that your target uses, maybe you've changed a password so they no longer have access to that account. You've denied their accessibility. The key here is that the hacker doesn't want anyone, either the target or if they used a company to get the target's information, to know that anyone has been played. They want to keep access to that information, whether it be an account or something else, as long as they need it. And they also don't want to clue in anyone that, there's a weak link here, so they can continue to use that if they need to. It was around this point in my research into social engineering where I was thinking over and over and over again about the idea that social engineering is hacking without very much code at all. I am a computer science student, so I code, but I have not made a lot of websites. And so I was thinking to myself, I think probably the most convincing thing would be a fake landing page. As I'm reviewing this footage during editing, I can tell you pretty clearly why the fake landing page was the idea that was stuck in my brain during research. And it's because it is the example that I saw the most. Now, there were some other examples like plain text SMS or email or even the USB plugging in, but fake landing page was the thing I kept seeing over and over and over again being very successful and very detrimental to the target. How hard would it be to make a fake landing page of the single sign-on at my work? We have a single sign-on. You sign in with that service and you have access to your Gmail, your Google Drive, PowerSchool, your Schoology, basically anything that our company uses. I don't make websites for a living. I know basic HTML and CSS, but that is about it. I teach it to high schoolers sometimes, but I just wanted to see if I could make a website that looked like the website. And so I did that. Insert montage here. So I'm doing something that might not be advisable. I don't suggest that you follow in my footsteps, but I wanted to see how difficult making a fake spoof website is and see if I could get any of my department members to click on it and maybe enter some information. I'm not going to be storing any sensitive information of theirs. I will take down their email, which I already know. I will have a spot for them to enter in their password, but I will not store that information because that would be insane. And yeah, I'm just going to try to host it on REPL. I have never hosted a website on Replit.com. But I have some pages up and we're gonna figure out how to do it. So, so this is gonna be the URL that people will go to. Yeah, it is. There it is. It says hello world. It's great. Enter your password. Refresh. So good. Okay, we use a single sign-on. There it is. It's called Hello ID. Oh, it looks like this, which is perfect. What happens if I just take this and put it into the HTML? Because I am willing to do that. All right. Well, we got some buttons. Students and staff. We have a picture in the background. It's not the right picture. And that looks pretty okay. Man, I need this picture. I need it. Oh, I got the background. Oh. So this is the page I'm trying to emulate. I got that. Oh, so good. So the background was like the biggest thing because I think that I could maybe get away with not having everything, but this background of like all of these little school implements is so jarring that like when anyone in our district goes to sign in, we see this and we're like, oh my god, yes, that's the sign in page. So I just need these little buttons, and it looks like pretty decent. Considering I have very limited HTML knowledge. I just knew that the image source, and I knew I could upload a picture. Okay, awesome. Nice, convincing web page. This is so easy. Oh no, this is too easy. Oh no, there's so much. I would really love to get this like down on the page a little bit. That would be really good. That's what I'm gonna try to do. That's the right font. I don't know why it's not the right size. That's not what I wanted. It says that that's 16. I don't believe it. I'm gonna go 24. See if it gets any bigger. It's not getting any bigger, so I don't know what to do. It's gonna be a different size. I don't know how to center things ever. I've never known how to. How to center item in CSS. Oh my god. Oh my god. How do I get it to not be at the very top of the thing? Can I just do... No one's gonna know. No one's gonna know. No one's gonna know if I just... Oh, I'm enjoying this too much. Is it exactly the same? No. Oh, I'm gonna put a couple more breaks in there. Okay, so this is my sign-in. This is theirs. It does look different. This even has like the little lock on it, like it looks secure. Okay, so I had to kind of start over from scratch because I had to use PHP, and I have never really done stuff server side. But the tutorial that I found online was very easy. Like it literally just gave me this code, and then I changed text data to say username, and I put it in the pages that I had already made. The only problem that I think I might run into is like if this guy stops running, this link doesn't work anymore. So like I can go to this link and it says no, but if it's running, it works. I can maybe just have this running like when I'm gonna try to send it. So not too bad, not too shabby.
With my fake website completed, I had finished my first goal, figure out how hard it is to make a fake landing page. And it wasn't too hard, but it also wasn't the easiest thing in the world. I spent about 2 hours on it. And I didn't really want to waste those 2 hours. And being an educator, I could see the educational benefit to sending this out and seeing if people would click on it, and then using that data as a training piece. However, there were definitely some ethical considerations I wanted to deliberate on before I just sent out this website willy-nilly. So I asked my building principal, our head of IT, and my cybersecurity professor what their thoughts on this project was. And I definitely got some, whoa, slow down their energy, but with careful consideration about who I was sending it out to and making sure I followed up with those people, I did get the blessing of both my building principal and the head of IT and my cybersecurity professor said it was okay as long as they said it was okay. So here's my reaction to getting my building principal to sign off on this idea. So I just got permission from my building principal to send this fake website out to a couple colleagues that I have a good relationship with and a couple students, just so no one feels like that they got bamboozled or anything, to see who falls for it. So I'm going to put like a 30-minute cap on trying to make the website look just a little bit better. I have some spacing issues to figure out, but I think I've probably clocked like just under 2 hours worth of work on it. Like, I have some background in computer science, obviously, but I don't build websites. Like, this isn't something I normally do. I had to look up a good amount of stuff. So I would say, like, on a challenge rating, like, it's probably like a 6 out of 10. Very doable, but not the easiest thing. So I'm excited. I'll give you an update later.
So I had some fun complications with that, which I will now go into detail. And I also want to talk about the cycle of social engineering that I experienced while making this site and deploying it and reviewing over the information. So here it is. Here's the email that I'm sending. I've blind carbon copied my first hour class, all my colleagues in my department that I know really well. And it's just a simple email that, cites their school and has the link in there. I'll have to run that link before I send it out tomorrow. But I guess part of the research phase that I, had pretty easy is getting all of these email addresses. Like, I have very, very clear access to these email addresses, whereas an actual attacker would need to get access to these email addresses and find them. The staff ones would be pretty easy because we're on a staff directory, but the student ones would be a bit more difficult. There is a really clear pattern to all of the student ones. So once you discover that pattern, I don't think it would be that hard as long as you knew their information. But again, that would be part of that research phase. That would have been harder if I didn't have access to those emails as their teacher. I already had a leg up in this rather than an outside attacker because I am part of the company. I know what the single sign-on page looks like. I have access to people's emails. I didn't really have to research that part, or if I did, it didn't take me very long. One issue that I did have was that when I sent out the site originally, I deployed it at 8 a.m. and I sent out an email with the site in it that it was trying to look like it was from our IT department using the same font that they do, but with a different email address. And I sent it out and Google's spam filter caught it. No one saw the original email. I knew this because I had another colleague who was kind of in on this, that I sent it to her as well, and I asked her to check her email inbox and it wasn't there, and I was like, okay, check your spam, and it was there, and I knew that no one checks their spam. No one goes in and they click on things that are in their spam folder. And that was kind of disappointing for me because I knew if I could get this website in front of people, I thought it looked convincing enough, or if it was in front of people, they would click it. So then we pulled out the big guns and I sent this out from my own email. This is not something that I think a normal hacker would have unless they got access to my account and then sent it out from there. There's definitely that has happened, right? We get emails from people impersonating other people from their account. I see this on social media a lot. People will post things and I'm like, that's not you. But I wanted to see if people would click on the website, and they did when it was from me. I sent out a request for help. I knew that the people that I sent it out liked me and that they would want to help me. And so I sent it out as a request. Hey, I can't log in. Can you try logging in with your own stuff and tell me if it works? I'm having issues. And that's kind of the culture of the place, right? We all help each other out, which is really nice, but also to their detriment. So this was part of the hook. They knew me. They knew that this was coming from me. I knew what members were in my department. And so I could make an email with just them on it. And they're like, okay, this is from someone in our department. They've only asked people in our department. It's not like I was on an email with a bunch of random people in the company, because we get that with regular phishing attacks. They don't know or have not taken the time to figure out who normally is on an email chain altogether. So it will be me and someone from a different building and from a different department. And I'm thinking there is no way that we should be on an email that isn't just to everyone. With this attack, I had a lot of insider information and credibility as well. I do not think this would have worked at all if I did not have that. That being said, with all that insider information and credibility, I did hook a couple people to click on the link originally.
So far it's been deployed for about 3 hours. I did have to send it through my personal email rather than the fake email because the Gmail spam blocker caught it. So these people think that this message is coming from me, which is a huge boost to my credibility as an attacker. But if someone did get my account information, they could definitely pose at me. So I think it's still valid, but just much harder to pull off. And my hypothesis from this data is correct. If I can get someone to this website, they're going to enter in their information most of the time. So I have a couple of these are repeat attempts, like one person tried like 5 times, which could be interesting because if you use like the same 4 passwords for everything, you could be like, maybe that's not the right password for this, and then try one of your other passwords. And then as the attacker, I would have access to that password as well. So then if I wanted to use this email on another website, I would have a list of passwords to try. So that's something that I didn't expect as I got into this. I, of course, don't know if they tried different passwords because I don't store the passwords, but it's something that I've done in the past, right? Where I logged on to something and was like, maybe this website requires a number. So then I put in a number that I like to use or a different number that I like to use, just variations on the same password. So should probably change that because that's not very secure. I'm learning a lot through this project.
I got 13 people in total to enter in their username and password. Now, I didn't store their password again. I know I've said that a bunch, but I just want to keep reiterating it. I did not store any passwords. But the play was mostly hands off for me, which was good for me because, like I said, I don't think I would be good at playing someone in real time. I wouldn't want to be on the phone with someone or in a customer service text chat trying to lie and come up with more stuff. So I did a lot of front loading on this. Once people were there on the website, a good number of them didn't see any alarming difference between that website and the real website and put in their information. Something did happen was for one of my colleagues, actually for a couple of my colleagues, a Google Chrome warning popped up that said, hey, this is a duplicitous website. You just put your password in, don't hit enter. I actually got my colleague to send me a picture of what the warning looked like. So this is what it looks like on Chrome if they detect a deceptive site. So browsers can detect things like this, which is really interesting. However, some people saw that warning and hit ignore and hit continue anyway because they had such trust in me that I would not send them to a fake website. So again, I'm really glad I have that relationship with those people, but if a hacker would have gotten into my account, they would have had access to 13 other accounts in which they could try this hack again and see if they can get even more information. As far as the last step of the cycle, the out, my out was very, very bad, but that was on purpose. I wanted to let people know that they had been played as a part of the penetration testing and training. When they clicked login, all it did was it brought them back to the login page. It didn't do anything. I could have coded it to a page that says like, hi, you've been phished by Julie Kirkpatrick. Your password is safe. You don't have to change any of your account information. Just be more careful. I could have done that. I didn't. I felt like it would be better to go talk to them in person about it to make sure that they didn't feel like they got too played. Here's some more thoughts on the experiment that I did. Some people just straight up do not check their emails, which I think reflects really nicely with the idea that, none of these things are actually necessary to live. They're necessary to have a job, but we use these pieces of technology because they give us utility. If you don't want to use that piece of technology, you lose the utility, but also you are no longer vulnerable to attacks using that technology. So if you don't check your emails, you're not going to fall for a phishing email scam because you're just not going to be there. Another idea that came up a lot as I was reflecting on this process was that I did not get the website to look exactly 100%. In fact, when I told people like, hey, this is a fake website, a lot of them pulled up the real website and the fake website and started pointing out all the different things. But close enough was close enough because after they pointed out like, oh, these buttons don't touch and that's rounded and that's square and there's the background is more zoomed chimed in. They also paused and reflected, and they're like, but I did still enter my information into it, so close enough was really close enough. I spent probably about 2 hours and 30 minutes total on making the website look as good as I could, and that's all of the time that I wanted to put into it, because again, I was trying to figure out how long would it take someone who has limited experience to make a fake landing page. Another interesting part was that Gmail and also the Chrome browser got in my way a lot. So companies are trying to combat this. Google Chrome sent the email to spam, and the browser flagged the website for a number of people that got there, which got me thinking, is there a way to report phishing? If you think you're on a phishing website, can you report that to anyone? The service that I hosted my website never took it down. Is there a way to report it? And is that legal and also ethical to do so? At the end of this experience, the reason I was able to do this experiment is because I knew that I was going to use it to help train people to be less susceptible to phishing attacks that would actually steal their information. How can people protect themselves from phishing and other social engineering attacks? I think the best way to protect yourself is just to become familiar with the tricks of the trade. So I don't really fall for email phishing attacks because I know what an email phishing attack looks like, because I've been exposed to it. So training on it, companies train their employees to not fall for social engineering, to not give out passwords in customer service, to not give out sensitive information unless they can verify the identity of the person on the other end of the line. Do not click on suspicious links. People definitely should keep their browsers and security updated. Google Chrome caught the duplicitous website, and I'm not sure it caught it for everyone, and I don't know what triggered it, but if you are running an outdated version of Chrome, it's more likely that you're not going to catch things like that, because the advancements get sent out and you have to install them. And maybe you can report things. I don't know if you can actually report phishing. I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah, if you Google report phishing email, it takes you to a page from the FTC, a .gov. I trust that, Federal Trade Commission, and they say right here, if you get a phishing email, forward it to Anti-Phishing Working Group at reportphishing@apwg.org. If you got a phishing text message, forward it to spam 7726. So I'm actually going to do that right now. And done. Ooh. And you can also report the phishing attack to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. Good to know. So there are multiple ways to avoid being the target of social engineering attacks. Specifically for phishing, make sure you're looking out for suspicious sender emails, weird layouts or spelling. Look for differences in the URLs on websites you go to, and be careful of suspicious attachments. Never plug anything into your computer where you don't know where it's coming from. Don't pick a USB off the ground and then plug it into your laptop. And if you think that you've come across a social engineering attack, report it to the police and to the FTC. Organizations can also help prevent their users from falling victim to social engineering attacks by requiring multi-factor authentication, monitoring their systems for attacks and responding appropriately, by training their employees, by implementing penetration testing, and by paying attention to their digital footprint in general. There are a lot of takeaways we can learn about society when we examine social engineering. I think that it's awesome that humans are such trusting creatures, right? We're social. However, that trust can be exploited. So as users of technology, it's really important to be careful and keep an eye out for when things don't feel quite right. As shown in the experiment that I ran, it's not too hard to exploit that trust and get access to information that someone might be trying to keep private. So, because it's not that hard, it is so important for us users to be careful and keep things secure.